Good evening. Welcome one and all to the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram's online guest speaker series on Prana as the life breath of sadhana, theoretical foundations across traditions. Uh, Welcome back to those who joined us in the inaugural talk of this series last evening, and also those who have been able to join us for the conference on Prana and Pranayama, which was conducted on April 13th and 14th. Also, a special welcome to those for whom it's the first time attending an event online or offline by the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. We'd like to take a minute to speak a bit about the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, which is a yoga institute based in Chennai, founded in 1976 by Sri T.K.V. Desikachar, who was the son and disciple of Sri Tirumalai Krishnamacharya, a name synonymous with the revival of yoga in the 20th century. At the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, we offer comprehensive training programs for yoga teaching, healing chants, and therapy, which are offered as postgraduate diplomas. One other key offering of the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram is one-on-one yoga therapy, which is offered for a variety of conditions spanning skeletal-muscular, cardiorespiratory, mental health, women's issues, and so on. Besides, as you can see, there are a variety of community outreach programs, workshops, webinars like this one. Besides work in a research and publications department, can visit our website kym.org and also look for the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram on various social media platforms. As we know, Prana and Pranayama have a very central significance in yoga practice. In this year, 2025, since early March, we have been offering a number of events on Prana and Pranayama in practice and also in terms of how it is understood in the broader Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, of which yoga is an integral part. In early March, we had a 5-week online guided workshop series, which was conducted by senior teachers of the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. This was comprehensive, going from linking breaths to movement, moving on to nuances of pranayama practice, including ratios and bandhas, eventually integrated with chanting, mantra, bhavana, and also moving on to applications both in traditional ritual settings as well as therapy. This series was in the run-up to a conference, an international conference on Prana and Pranayama, which was well attended, held in Chennai on April 13th and 14th, where besides paper presentations from areas in applied as well as textual research, we had invited speakers who spoke on Prana and Pranayama, not only as it relates to yoga sadhana, but also Ayurveda, the broader Indian knowledge systems, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, biomedical engineering, and also the different textual streams, starting from the Vedic corpus, moving on to Dharma Shastra and applications, and so on. Continuing from the conference is this series on Prana as the life breath of sadhana. I've just previously mentioned a practice series which was done by teachers and therapists of the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. This is a series with guest speakers who are scholars with an academic specialization or their own practice or both in a variety of sampradayas, traditions, including Vaishnava, Shakta, Shaiva, and so on. And this also continues from the coverage of texts relating to the Vedic corpus, Upanishads, Dharma Shastra, which has been happening in the previous events, to extend the scope to Agama and Tantra and Purana literature as well. Before we introduce our speaker for today, just a few housekeeping announcements. We would request all participants to stay muted, but if possible, we invite you to keep your video on so that this can have an interactive vibe. We will take questions at the end. So it's my honor now to introduce our speaker for today, Shri K. Giridhara Sharma. The topic he'll be speaking on is Prāṇa-śakti, Upāsaka, Jīva-śakti. The Shakti occurs twice in the title, and we expect to hear insights from the Shakta traditions. Shri Giridhara Sharma was born into a pious Tamil family and is an electronics engineer by education and profession, with over 30 years of experience in the field. Alongside his professional career, he was blessed to study under the great scholar Brahmashri Goda Venkateshwara Shastrigal, learning the basics of Tarka and Mimamsa, and specializing in Mimamsa and Vedanta, including Prasthanatraya Bhashya and other important texts in both Mimamsa Shastras. Sri Shastrigal also trained him in Shakta and Shaiva Agamas. Since the year 2018, Sri Giridhara Sharma has continued his studies in Mimamsa under Dr. K.E. Devanathacharya, Vedanta under Mahamahopadhyaya Brahmashri Dr. Mani Dravid Shastri, and Vyakaranam under Brahmashri Dattatreya Murthy Shastri. He regularly participates in Vidvat Sadas and workshops, and also conducts private classes in Mimamsa and Vedanta, organizing study groups and discussions. With that, it's my honor to turn it over to Shri Giridhara Sharmaji for this address on Prāṇa-śakti, Upāsaka Jīva-śakti.
Namaste. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you, Shri Aravinji. Thanks for having me here. This is a very thought-provoking topic for me. When Shri Aravinji asked me to speak about Prana and Pranayama from the perspective of Sri Vidya, I was not able to say yes immediately, mainly because the corpus of Sri Vidya text does not have a dedicated section, so to say, on Pranayama per se. And I was digging into it. I will give some background on how I approach this so that you can relate to what I am going to speak later. In our tradition, we see Sri Vidya as a darshana. So when you say darshana, it is a moksha sadhana, tattva darshana. But if you see the classification, there are in tradition you have Shad darshanas, Nyaya Vaiseshika, Sankhya Yoga, Puramivamsa and Vedanta. So where does Sri Vidya fit into this is a question. We will always have that. And interestingly, there is recently I came across one book by Haribhadra Suri, is a Jain scholar. It was dated somewhere around 500 to 700 years. In that, as he was propounding his theory, I mean this Siddhanta, he also touches all the prevalent philosophical schools of thought during his time. What is interesting is he mentions about in the appendix in the book. There is by another Jain scholar. What they are mentioning is they are saying, okay, this is how a Vaishnava is. This is what a Shaiva is. So they are looking into all this Shakta. They are talking about how a yogi will look like, how a Sankhya will look like. He is explaining the physical appearance, the kind of dress, their achara and all that. So it looks like there were people who were yogin, Sankhya. Now when you say yogi, a person who practices yoga is yogi. But does the person take yoga as a darshana as propounded by Maharshi Patanjali is something we have to see. Like you have a specific class of people who are smartas, who are Vaishnavas, who are Madhva. You don't have a Sankhya or yoga like that, yogi like that. But in those days, it looks like they were like that. But on closer inspection, what we see is he had mapped Shaivas to yogis and Sankhyas to Vaishnavas. Probably that merging happened that time, somewhere before that. Because you don't see a Darshana Grantha from Sankhya or Yoga in a much later period. What has happened is these Tantras or the Agamas, they have absorbed the principles of Sankhya and Yoga. So you can't have a Tantric practice without the yogic base. And that is what you will see in all this. You can't have a system of philosophy where you have a Godhead. It can be Shakti, it can be Shiva, it can be Vishnu, whatever it can be. But you also have to explain the tattvas behind that. So you can't have it without absorbing certain facets of Sankhya there. So the Sankhya and Yoga has percolated, rather than putting it this way, the Sankhya and Yoga has percolated into this practical sadhana siddhanta, sadhana marga. And yoga getting into the other streams as a practical aspect should be of no surprise to any of us, because yoga is a more of practical thing rather than an intellectual pursuit. So from that point of view, when you take a Tantra Grantha and see how they relate this Yama Niyama and all, Yama Niyama and all gets mapped into certain acharas. That's why in Agama you have Charya, Kriya, Yoga and Jnanapada. That is much more well defined in Shaiva Agamas. In Shakta Agama you have acharas related to different stages of pursuit. That being the case, when I was trying to look at what is prana and how it is portrayed, because most of these things we received as a oral tradition. When we practice, Guru would give some inputs. So there is not much of textual basis. That's what I'm trying to tell in a roundabout way. There are not many tantric texts where you can say, okay, here is this section about pranayama and this is how you approach. These are specific pranayamas for this devata. You don't see that. There are certain commentaries who explain about that, but in Mula Tantra you don't have much discussion about it. But it is not like it is not there, because without pranayama, all of these streams, all of this darshana marga, they go up to samadhi. And you cannot have samadhi without dharana and dhyana. And it is impossible to even contemplate something like a dhyana without pranayama. So it is a necessary condition to have as basis for pranayama, but you don't see that very well discussed like in Patanjala Shastra. But what they have done is very interesting, and that is what I am trying to share with you today. So let us go from the basics. Prana, we all know, is a life force. It operates as an activity of air. It's not just breath, it's not just air, but it is beyond that. That we all know. When I say it is an activity, I would say it is a form of kinetic energy. That it is vibrant and dynamic concept. It is not just like a air blows when a fan is switched on. And it is not static. And that being energy, that's why I brought in that word, that being energy, a Shakti, in our system, everything is mapped to the divine. So this Prāṇa-śakti is an amsha, is a part, is a manifestation of the divine. And if you, in Sri Vidya tradition, we have a fixation for mapping every concept to a feminine form. What they say is a gender theology. Anything is mapped to a Shakti, and that Shakti is mapped to one particular Devi Swarupam. So if you look at it, this Prāṇa-śakti has been mapped to, in some of the tantras, and Prāṇa-śakti has been mapped to what is popularly known as Varahi. So this Varahi Devata is mapped to Prāṇa-śakti in many cases. This Varahi also has a role as a Dandini. She is Panchami Devata as a Dandini. She is commander-in-chief of the Lalita Paradevata's army. So when Lalita Paradevata is getting into a war, I mean, all these are like, I would say, we have to visualize that as a metaphor. So when the divine is trying to destroy the evil force within us and then try to take over us, because we have our own limitation. We are not able to reach divine. So when we surrender, when we open our heart, then the Divine Mother bestows her grace. And for her to come and reside in our heart, she has to remove the evil. And that is what is metaphorically called as a war. And for that, this Dandini Devata, she is the commander-in-chief. So if you look at it that way, the Prāṇa-śakti becomes the commander-in-chief for the Divine Mother to come and reside in our heart. It really makes sense from this yogic system. Because without the power of prana, you are not going to have a clean system, and without the purity, Devi will not come and reside. So this is a very simple mapping. So when Varahi, it is prana is mapped to Varahi, Varahi is Dandini, and what is the role as a commander-in-chief in the army of Lalita Mahatripura Sundari, and when you take it inside, it makes sense. At least for this is how we received as a oral instruction. This is how you visualize it. Now, how is she seen? Pancha Pranamayi Devi Varahi Parikirtita Pranapana Samanakya Vyanodanocha Pancha. So she is the collection of all these Pancha Pranas. Hridayambuja Madhyastham Varahim Prana-rūpinim Jagarti Ya Kundalini Swatejasa Nirantar. This is a very important concept. By the tejas of prana, that is by the power or the energizing concept of prana, or energizing, I would say, property of prana, the Kundalini is awakened. And that is how Varahi is portrayed. Hridayambuja Madhyastham Varahim Prana-rūpinim Jagarti Ya Kundalini Swatejasa Nirantaram. So this prana is, so Prāṇa-śakti is one aspect, and you have Varahi. But there is another point when you look into prana as Prāṇa-śakti. The point I was trying to make is you map it into a Devi Swarupam. It becomes, once you make it as a Devi Swarupam, it is Chetanam. It is a sentient being. It is not just a force of air or a force of breath, etc. When you call it as a sentient being, you have another advantage. She can listen to us. She can bestow grace on us. She has the power to grant rewards for our actions, rewards and retributions. And from Vedantic point of view, Phalam Ataha Upapatte, she is the one who can give us the result of action. That is, from Vedantic point of view, is the indication that any entity that has the power to grant the result of an action is an indication that it is Supreme Being. In Pranadikaranam, in Brahma Sutram, Prāṇa, there are many verses in Upanishads where the Supreme Being is called by the name Prāṇa. And Lalita Sahasranam also you have the same thing as Pranada. She is the one who gives Prana to us. Prana Rupini, she herself is the Prana Rupini. Praneshwari, Pranadatri. So these are the names that you worship with the names you worship the Divine Mother. So what happens is, from Vedantic point of view, Prana is directly mapped. The concept of Prana can be mapped to Supreme Being. So Prana, so in parallel in Sri Vidya, Prana can be mapped to Lalita Mahatripura Sundari. That is why Prana Rupini. It is her, she is the one who enlivens every being, Pranadatri. And Praneshwari, she is the one who controls Prana, Praneshwari. So all the three aspects, that is the collective aspect and also the Vyashti, this individual aspect, can be, the Prana can be related, can be mapped or can be related to Divine Mother. And when it comes to the aspect of where she controls, then that is where it takes the form of Varahi. Now, keep this in mind. When you look into Pranayama, so we know what is Ayama. It comes from the root word Yama. So it can have two meanings. Invariably, it will have two meanings. One is the extension, Ayamaha, Vistaraha. The other meaning would be control itself. So you extend the prana, you control the prana, which is very familiar for all of us. That is, you control and you extend the prana. But when it comes to this mapping which I told, you are not going to control Varahi, and there is nothing for us to extend her. So Pranasya Ayamaha Pranayama is what we normally say. But in this system, if you take Prana as the Divine Mother or as an aspect of or as a manifestation of a Divine Mother to do a particular job, you don't control her. So the samasa becomes Pranena Ayama, controlled by her or extended by her. So what is this extension? This Jiva is a Pashu according to the system. This is Sankuchita Shiva Rupaha. So each of us Shiva by ourselves, but because of this Anava Karmika Mayika Mala, we are confined. The Sankocha has happened. We are confined to a limited being. So the limitation being our body and mind and intellect and also the prana. So that is the one which is controlling us, which is confining us. And this Devi Surupam is the one which is going to extend us or control us. When it says extend, the sankocha or the confinement what we feel now, the limitation what we feel now, slowly as it's removed, we feel extended. And at some point, we merge with the divine. And that is what the purpose of pranayama is. So when you look into pranayama from this devotional or the, I would say, divinity aspect of it, not just a breathing exercise. When you see from this aspect, the Devi is the one who is eliminating our confinement or who is reducing and then enlarging us, reducing our confinement, enlarging us and controlling us. You have a different, you gain a strength with that. See, when this is the ayama aspect. So it is not pranasya ayamaha, pranena ayamaha is the difference we should see here. If we take prana to be Prāṇa-śakti or Varahi Devi, anything. But when you come to the actual practice, what do we do? So keep pranayama aside. A sadhaka has to have a daily ritual, and one of them being the puja. Devata yajanam, devata pujanam is a very integral part of any upasana. So when you do the puja, for any puja, not only this Sri Vidya, any puja, the first thing is this is another subtle concept. The first thing is we invoke Devi. That is Avahanam. And then we do this Pujanam. Pujanam is Triptikarana. We please or whatever this Upachara. And then Visarjana. Because you don't leave Devi and then go out of the room. You do the Visarjana. So you invoke, you take in, you merge with the divine, that is the Pujanam, and then you do the Visarjana, which is Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka aspect of it. So the whole puja, when you do this, when you do this pranayama, with this perspective, every breath is a puja. That is sapadya. Pranayama by itself is sapadya if you understand it this way. And there is another interesting concept here. Any puja, what we do is, there is a murti or yantra or deepam something. So we invoke the deity there. Then we don't start puja immediately. We do prana pratishtha. So where do we take prana? We take our prana and do pratishtha there. And we do puja for the prana. We don't do puja for anything else. Then after prana pratishtha, you finish the puja. Then you take the prana back, hridaya vilapya, you take it back into your heart, and then the visarjanam happens. So the Divine Mother comes from somewhere, sits in this form, takes your puja and goes. And as soon as she comes, our prana goes there, sits along with her, takes the puja, and then it comes back to us. So you see this, the relationship between the Divine Mother and the prana. But actually, if you see, our worldly problems are in our mind, not in prana. Prana is pure by itself. We don't have problem with prana at all. We use Prāṇa-śakti to eradicate our problems. We misuse, then we get into dis-ease. But the problem is always in our mind. So we do prana pratishtha. Why not mano pratishtha? Because this is where it's a very interesting thing. The individual manas, individual mind of the jiva is limited and impure. Whereas for the Devi, the Maya is her mind. It is pure, full of grace, all divine qualities. So when you want to invoke, when you want to please her, she has been mindful of our effort to reach her. So you don't put your mind there and then try to do puja for it. Then why don't you do puja directly for her? We take our prana and keep it in front and then do puja. Because our prana is same as her prana. She is the one who has given us this prana, prana datri. So if we take and do puja for our prana, it is as good as doing puja for her prana, which is her, by herself. So there is a aikya bhavana there. Prana pranavatoho aikya. This prana and the person who has the prana, these two are same. So there is one person, his prana left his body, we say he is gone. We don't say his prana is gone. So this prana pranavatoho aikya. So when the prana I have in my body, which I feel it is mine, is actually Divine Mother's prana. And I know that this prana and the Divine Mother are same. So when I do puja for my prana, I am doing puja for Devi. And that is how she also sees, that's how she bestows grace on me. So this is the relationship of the pranayama. Puja is pranayama and pranayama is the puja. So this avahanam is purakam, pujanam is kumbhakam, and then visarjanam is rechaka. With this in mind, if we this is where this Ajava mantra goes in. And the tradition in Sri Vidya is that at the end of the day, there is a count of number of breath we would have taken from the previous day. So everything is submitted to Devi. Everything, whatever I have done, is up to you, is given to you. That offering is there at the end of the day. So this is how this comes in. Now, there's another aspect to it. If you look into the this pranayama as it is, I told this Prāṇa-śakti, you are not controlling, she is controlling, right? But practically what happens is, we don't have the feel that she is controlling. It is, let's be honest, we don't feel. Just because one gets a diksha or mantra, the person does not immediately feel that he has surrendered to the divine. He keeps asking his guru, what should I do, what should I do? Because that I have to do, the doership is very strong. And Guru also gives advice saying that don't do this, and then every day they check with each other, and so that process is going on, the sadhana is going on. And he has certain pride in him that I am the sadhaka. That surrendering, that I have surrendered is not there yet. And because it is very close to the ultimate goal. So in that aspect, so even in puja and everything, there is pranayama. Starting from Sandhya, you have pranayama. So the theory which I told now, the concept which I told, that you don't control the prana, Devi controls you, is not practical when you sit for puja. Because you have to control your breath. You have to do pranayama the way everybody does. So what happens is, so when you have to extend, so you can extend something only if you get hold of it, which means you have to control it and then extend it. So how do we get into this? So there is a difference here from the theoretical point or the philosophical point which I told, and the practical aspect is, okay, let Devi do pranayama for me. No, it's not going to happen. We have to do this, because without pranayama, without the antarshuddhi, puja is not going to happen. So what we do is, we start with doing the pranayama the normal way. That is how the puja is. Divine Mother is everywhere. She is the one, she is everywhere in the universe, and she is the only one there. But we don't feel. That is why we take a murti, we take a yantra, we take deepam, and we do the avahana. We invoke her as if she is not there. Why do we invoke her? Why do we do avahana? Because we think she is not there. We have a feeling that she is not there. That's the truth. We have to admit it. We don't feel like Devi is sitting in front of us. Then we won't do avahanam. We may not even do pujanam. We will just be awestruck with her divine presence. When we do all this kriya. So we have a belief that she is not there in front of us. So we invoke her. So we control. We look at the time, we look at the day, and we look at our capacity, and we look at our convenience, and then invoke her at certain time of the day for a certain purpose, and then we try to send her out. So we do control. So the sadhaka at the earlier stage, we are the one who are going to control. So we feel, as we do the pujanam, the pranayama also, as everybody does in every other system, even though theoretically I know that I cannot control Devi, I cannot extend or anything, as a Prāṇa-śakti, as probably as an inner Prāṇa-śakti, I have to do this. But in the back of the mind, I know eventually it is going to come there. So as we do this pranayama, as we mature, as the mind gets purified, as the mind gets purified, you get closer and closer to the divine. And that is when we feel the pulsation, or we feel the connection, we feel the reality of the divine with respect to the rest of the world. So at some point it clicks, saying, okay, even though I feel I'm doing it, I'm made to do this. Even then you will still be doing it, but there will be a realization that, okay, I'm not doing it, I'm doing it, but I'm made to do this, not on my own will. Divine Mother is making me do this. That's one stage. That's the first. At some point it clicks. I may not be as independent as I think I am. That realization comes. That's the first step for surrender. And as we mature, as we progress in the sadhana, as we try to see divine everywhere, in every aspect, everything as manifestation, like I told about prana, buddhi, everything. So, as you see everything as a manifestation of the divine, then what happens is that individuality is kind of dissolved, and you can feel that she is the one who is controlling. Pranena-ayamaha, and she slowly removes our limitation. As much as we are willing to surrender, as much as we are willing to let go of our tendencies, she will be removing our limitations, which is what happens in pranayama. You don't start pranayama without a proper grounding and yama and niyama. It's not going to work. So as we do this pranayama, as we realize, yes, I am being controlled by mother. Mother is taking care of me. When we have that faith, have the belief that mother is taking care of me. So every prana, every breath, every prana, every breath becomes a pujanam. One, you are able to relate to divine. That goes to the level of dharana. So what is dharana actually? You fix certain ideas. Dharana is fixing certain ideas with relation to certain thing. It's one step below the dhyana. So when we do this, when we have this belief that even the normal process of breathing is because of Devi, because of her divine grace, and she is the one who is playing with me. When we have that more and more, the pranayama itself, I'm skipping Pratyahara because that should happen because of the achara and other things. You directly go into the dharana, and that is when we are ready for dhyana and samadhi. So having this idea of pranayama, that this Prāṇa-śakti is the one which is driving us, is taking us very close to dharana and dhyana. And that is very true in even from yogic perspective. But for pranayama to be effective, this yama and niyama are very important. That's why for Varahi Upasana, I won't say Varahi Upasana, for Varahi Pujanam, because Upasana is only for Lalita Mahatripura Sundari. For Varahi Pujanam, there are certain restrictions given. Na divas maret vartali. This Varahi Pujanam does not happen in daytime. That's very interesting thing. In Upanishad, prana is seen as manifestation of sun. Because of that, in Prana Upasana in certain Upanishad, few things are forbidden to do when sun is there. There are few things you are forbidden to do in the daytime. Upanishads speak about that. But here in this system, in our system, what happens is the puja itself. Here prana, there it is Surya, Aditya. Here it is Varahi. So in daytime, you are not expected to do, you are not supposed to do puja for, not even the mantra japam for Varahi in daytime. So why is it that? The answer given in tradition is the Aditya, the sun we see is a gross form of the Prāṇa-śakti. So when you have gross form right in front of you, you might as well do whatever you are supposed to do for the gross form. Whereas this Prāṇa-śakti, this Varahi is a subtle form. So she is not physically present in front of us like sun is present in front of us in the daytime. So she is hidden. So you invoke her, you invite her, you do pujanam for her when? After the sunset, before the sunrise. So that is the parallel. So you have the Prāṇa-śakti, you have Aditya, you have Varahi. The gross form is Aditya, the Prana, which you worship in the daytime. And the subtle form, the Sukshma Bhava, is in the night. And that is when you do this Varahi Upasana. When everything is settled down. When everything is settled down, when all the activities are done, what remains is the Prāṇa-śakti, like in sleep. So that is the symbolism of it. In sleep, everything is settled down. Nothing works other than prana, and that is when this Devi is manifesting herself. So that is where the Varahi Pujanam happens in the night. So this is another parallel to relate Prana and Varahi. And how Prana is seen is this Avahanam, Pujanam and Visarjanam is Pranayama. And this Pranayama itself becomes, initially it goes like this, and as we mature, every Pranayama becomes a Pujanam, and the normal life itself becomes the Samarpanam for the Devi. This is how this gets into the philosophical aspect of it. There are, there are many verses which are there, but like I told about Varahi, I can tell a lot, but that is not our main focus, because Varahi is Dandini and what she did in the Bandasuravada and all, the story parts and all are there, but that's not important for us. What is important is being the commander-in-chief, being the controller, that aspect of the Divine Mother, as we focus, controls unwanted thoughts. That is, a strong, a purposeful and a disciplined pranayama eradicates the asura shakti, asuri sampath in our mind. That is what purifies our mind. And as the mind gets purified, it gives us space for Devi to come and occupy our mind. So I have this much. If I can expand on Varahi, I can do, but I am not sure whether that would be of interest, one. And second, also, most of these come from the Upadesha tradition. So it may not be of value to anyone who is not doing puja. So I will stop with that now. So if you have some questions, please include.
Thank you, Shri Giridhara Sharma ji. We request, before we move on to questions, request the participants to join us for a group picture while we collect our questions. If you could please switch on your video for a second. We can have a group picture taken, and once that is done, we can move on to an interactive session.
Please give a minute. I'm just taking a screenshot. Thank you, Arvind. We are good to go.
Yes. So while we reflect on this fresh perspective on pranayama, inviting us to revisit who does the pranayama, how each breath can be eventually thought of as maturing into worship itself. We invite questions. We request that the questions be brief, with little preamble, as little preamble as possible. And also, we request that they relate to the topic that has been covered today, and keeping in mind the scope of this series, where the emphasis is on surveying textual traditions and the emphasis is more philosophical. Please raise your hands. See, Mr. M. Padmanabhan, could you unmute and ask your question, please?
Good evening, Giridhar Sharma ji. It was a wonderful talk. I think it was completely a new perspective for somebody who is exposed so far only to the traditional yoga pranayama perspective. Just wanted to kind of understand from you when you said that there are two questions actually. One is that Varahi Upasanam is part of Sri Vidya Upasanam, or is it something different, or what is the connection between these two? Number two is in terms of, I quite like this Avahanam, Visarjanam, and what is the other one?
Pujanam.
Pujanam. Avahanam, Pujanam, and Visarjanam being the metaphor for Rechakam, Purakam, and Kumbhakam. So, does one actually have to do a physical puja and then invoke and retain and do the puja and then, or is it enough that we do a manasika puja and understand this principle better?
Okay, the first one is Varahi is Anga Devata. So there is, that's why I said, slip of the tongue, I told Varahi Upasana and I corrected as Varahi Pujana. Upasana is only for Lalita Mahatripura Sundari. So Varahi is Anga Devata. So you have Varahi Pujana, there is Varahi Avaranam, there are things there. But the focus is on Lalita Parameshwari only. One. So she is Anga Devata, that's the ancillary. You start with Ganapati, Bala, and all that, and after at certain days, certain time, you do this Varahi Puja. And the question is whether you have to do physical or Manasika Puja. To start with physical, this is a very subjective point to answer. Usually, Guru decides what kind of puja you do based on your temperament and your situation in life. If I say everybody should do physical puja, it may not be possible for various reasons. Mainly, even I won't talk about the external factors. Some people have certain temperament. So, Guru's job is to find out what is your temperament, what is the shortest path to reach the divine. So, for some people who are more action oriented, which has its own blessing, then pujanam is enjoined. And I have seen my guru tell people that they have to do puja at least 100 times before get into the manasopachara. For some it is not so. Okay? So when somebody comes and asks, can I do this? I say, no, it's not even 5 years since you start doing puja. Maybe for another 5 years. For some people, when they want to do puja, I said, enough, you have done enough puja. Why don't you come to this? So it is the job of Guru to decide whether physical puja is needed or not. So it's not, we cannot generically say you have to do this and then go like this. That's why you don't see you don't see a uniform idea across tantras about all this. And that's another reason Upasana is something you learn from Guru. You read as many books as you want, but you're not supposed to practice anything from the books. Okay. You can go and talk to your Guru and then he has to decide.
Thank you, sir. I understand this. I wish to ask one more question, provided the moderator allows now, or I can ask it later.
Perhaps you could hold your question. We'll come back. Could we have Venkatakrishnan ji unmute and ask your question, please?
Sir, namaskaram. It was wonderful. Thanks a lot. My question is, you started saying that the Sankhya and Yoga are the base for any Upasana. Can we say Upasana came first and then this intellectual theorization and the grammatical fixing of Yoga and Pranayama were culled out of Upasana? Because they are common for all the Shakta Upasana, Shaiva Upasana, everything has got all these elements. Asana, Pranayama, I think so. Okay, can we say that like all the Upasana came first, the Agamas were written first, then Yoga was culled out of it, Yogic philosophy and Sankhya philosophy? Will that be right? Right statement to make?
We don't know because all these darshanas are Vedic Astika darshanas. So when you say Astika darshana, the Astika is one who takes Veda as Pramana.
Okay.
Some of this Agama Tantra, they don't take Vedas first Pramana. They are self-contained by themselves.
Okay.
So when you talk about Astika Darshana, there must be a basis in Upanishads or Veda. So there is a, I would say these, I won't say, it's not my opinion. The traditional opinion is all these systems came from Ishvara based on different adhikari. Whoever wants or whoever is qualified to do or whoever has tendency to do each of this, it comes. It does give
You mean agamas or the darshanas?
darshanas, Astika Darshana. All the Astika Darshana is derived from Veda and Agama
Okay.
came from Parameshwara. So all of them should have come as a parallel stream. So Kapila Maharishi culled out, you can say, this Sankhya philosophy from the Vedic world.
Veda.
He wanted to. Similarly,
Okay.
Patanjali Maharishi also is taken only from Vedas.
Okay.
This would not have been counted as a Astika Darshana.
Okay.
So all this comes from there, and this is running in parallel, and there is a lot of exchange of ideas. What I was trying to, the point I was trying to make is, as you have a Shaiva, Vaishnava, I won't even say Shakta, Shaiva, Vaishnava, Smarta, Madhva, and all. You have this separate category of people. You don't see anyone as I am a Nayayika or a Vaiseshika, and I am a Sankhya, or I am a Yogi.
Yeah.
That you don't see. That is what I am trying to say, that these things could have percolated there. The systemic philosophy of Sankhya and Yoga itself, which has come from Veda, now it is not there as a individual darshana for practice. But instead you have Sri Vidya, you have other Tantra as a darshana for practice. So somewhere this merging happened. That's what I was trying to make. And I tried to make that point mainly because is it even worthwhile to discuss about pranayama and Sri Vidya? Because pranayama strictly, theoretically, belongs to Patanjali Yoga system. So why are we trying to look into pranayama from other systems perspective? And it is very valid because yoga has percolated everywhere, or maybe yoga has called out from everywhere else. So yoga is very generic. So pranayama is very generic, and that's the point I was trying to make. I was trying to justify the title, so to say.
Okay. One writer question with this, sir. I think I understood clearly that Varahi is the Devata for Prana. Can I say that
Yes.
from your thing?
Yes.
Okay. And one personal question. Do you give Diksha for all these Varahi and all? I mean, I'm just interested to know.
Right.
Thank you. Namaskar.
So, speaking of Patanjali Yoga and Sri Vidya, there is a question in the chat from Parag MG. You had mentioned in the talk about dharana and dhyana. Could you please throw some light on Pratyahara
Pratyahara.
in view of prana?
Okay. See, Pratyahara, Prati Akriyate, you take all the senses and you don't let the senses do their normal job. I will put it in a very colloquial English. You don't let the senses run wild. So what happens with the pranayama, with the Dandini Devata is, she controls this Asuri Sampat. She is the one who destroys all these Asuras. In Chandogya Upanishad Bhashya, Bhagavad in Vedanta, and Shankara Bhagavad says, Devas are, Deva is a Prakasha, Shubha, Antakarana Vritti. Asuras are Papa Antakarana Vritti. I am kind of paraphrasing what he says. So any good thought is a Deva, any bad thought is Asura. And any Devasura Yuddham is a fight between good and bad thoughts. And what is qualified as good, what is qualified as bad is anything that takes us one step closer to divine is a good thought, and far away from divine is bad thought. So that is Asura. So when Varahi asked to control prana, or when she has to destroy this Asura, Asuras, they don't, just like they jump from anywhere, they come through the channels of the senses, Indriya. So that happens, the control of the senses happens with the pranayama basis. That's why I said, without yama and yama, you don't have asana, you don't have pranayama. Likewise, without good pranayama, you don't have pratyahara, But Pratyahara by itself has of no value. See, Pratyahara, if it doesn't lead you to, controlling all senses and not seeing, not hearing, and not tasting anything, by itself has no value. Why do you want to not see good things? By itself, it has no value unless it leads to dharana. Because dharana directly takes you to dhyana. Trayam ekatra samyamaha, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, it goes there. So Pratyahara by itself is of no value, that's why I skipped. But Pratyahara is the essential step to go towards dharana. So Pranayama makes your Pratyahara very accessible, but then you don't stop with that, you move on to dharana.
With your permission, can we take a few more questions?
Yes, sure. I have all the time.
Yes. Himanshu Potaji, please, could you unmute and ask your question?
Thank you very much. I think your talk was very, very clear. There cannot be many questions on what you said. You said very clearly, very practical. We can all relate to it. My question is that while you were talking, it appeared to me that there are other sadhanas also included in your Sri Vidya along with pranayama. And from my simple point of view, it appears that pranayama should be a sufficient technique for samadhi. So what's your comment on that?
You are talking about you're talking about sufficient. I would say pranayama is a necessary condition. It won't be sufficient condition. Because pranayama puts mind, it purifies the mind, but you also have to give good content to the mind, for which you need dhyana. And for dhyana, you need this dharana. Because the one-pointedness of mind does not come that easily. We have not been trained like that. So the training as well. So I would say pranayama is a necessary condition, but not sufficient condition.
Okay. Well, in Upanishad and all, somewhere you see that Brahma is Prana itself and all that. So I somehow think that, or I thought that there would be many traditions where the worship of Prana would be also a sufficient condition.
That's what I say. See, Prana as a Paradevata itself is there in Upanishad. Prana as Paradevata is there in Upanishad. Prana-sthadanugavad. You have that in the Brahma Sutra Bhashyam also. In Brihadaranyakam it talks about it. So that is there. So if you relate to Prana as Paradevata, then there is nothing else to do. But that does not lead to Pranayama practice. So Pranayama is something, it is more of a action oriented. So it means there is a Kriya Bhaga there. So you have to do something, you have to watch, you have to be very mindful of doing this. This is the right way to do it, this is not right. So you have this Ayama, you have Vistara, you have this Matra, how long you have to do this, and this Sabijam and Nirbijam, you have all this there. So you have to be very mindful of doing this Pranayama. But when you say Prana as a Paradevata, you don't have all that. You just have to see that. So that is different.
Thank you. And finally, a social question. You have to be very closely linked with your guru, I think, in the tradition you are talking about.
Yes.
Not like modern gurus, they initiate once and you never see them again. It can't be like that, I guess.
No. I mean, I do not know how that works because I know only this. I cannot comment.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I invite first Christopher Fernandez ji and then Yogacharya Dr. B. Soundaram ji. Christopher ji, could you unmute and ask your question?
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Your talk was really brightening up. I mean, I could relate a lot with it. Thank you very much for shedding light on it. I have one small question. I just want a clarification, a difference between Prāṇa-śakti and Kundalini-śakti. Could you throw some light on it?
Prāṇa-śakti lights up Kundalini-śakti. Kundalini-śakti is the ultimate. That is the one which energizes everything, and that's a Parashakti. So as a Kundalini, it is the unmanifested form. But when you fully realize, it becomes the Prāṇa-śakti. So that is the one we say it travels from one place to another. So we visualize that to travel from the mundane level, Mooladhara, from other Kundalini to the Prāṇa-śakti. But who provides that energy? The Prana is the one which provides the energy for the travel. So that's how we visualize that. So this Prāṇa-śakti Varahi resides in, supposed to reside in, where is it? I also wrote it.
Brahma Granthi.
Pranam Chalyate, this Shakti, it's Manipuraka Chakra.
Okay.
There is one viewpoint where Varahi resides in Manipuraka. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, then once the Prana-śakti is generated, then based on what you are saying, the ayama, the extension and the controlation. So is the extension and controlation happen on its own when the Kundalini is awakened?
No.
There you cannot guide it, you cannot control it, it just starts happening on its own.
No. At the Pranayama stage, that is where you are controlling.
No, I'm not controlling. I'm just sitting and the controlation is given up and the body starts doing weird things.
No. At the initial, at the sadhana stage, there are two stages here. At the sadhana stage, you have the full responsibility of making everything happen. So you are going to do that. At the siddha stage, that is once the Kundalini awaken, you don't have any control because there is no you separate from this.
Correct.
Then what happens to the body is not something you decide. It's a Divine Mother's play. When Kundalini Shakti manifests in this particular body, she wants to do certain leela, that is different. For another yogi, another siddha, she manifests different way. That depends on your vasana, your karma, or my guru would say it is parecha prarabdha. It's not your karma mostly. It is the people around you. They get to see one particular type of siddha, and accordingly, the Kundalini Shakti plays in you. If Kundalini is awakened in you, you are when it says awaken, you are not there as an individual to experience anything. You are already merged with the divine. So whatever happens to this body is of no business to you. But the people around you have a blessing to enjoy certain type of yogi or siddha around them. So according to their vasanas, according to their needs, this Kundalini Shakti plays in your body. So that is at the siddha stage. The sadhaka stage, you have full control, you have full responsibility to do everything as divined by your guru.
Dr. Soundaramji, could you unmute and ask your question? And also request M. Padmanabhanji, if you still have your follow-up question, to be ready with it after this.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Pranayama is something that we have to keep doing it. That is inhalation, Puraka, holding it Antar Kumpaka, then Rechaka, then Bahya Kumpaka. Without your effort, these things won't happen. It's not like mantra. Mantra, you keep chanting. At one stage, your mind becomes calm and you need not do anything. Whatever happens, you let go. Your mind is tranquilized. But in pranayama, whether you are going to do 5 rounds, 10 rounds, or continuously, you have to keep that effort. For each inhalation, you have to put that effort. Otherwise, you won't be inhaling. Exhalation happens automatically. When you are talking, as a sadhaka, we have to keep doing this, putting that effort. At which point it becomes driven by the divine.
You will know.
How do we know whether my Kundalini is raised? Is there any? Have you got any personal experience in this? In experiencing that point at which you get this transformation? Can you realize that by yourself, or can these things be done only after getting a diksha from a guru?
Okay, you're coming close to the answer. See, what happens is this. You talked about pranayama, you have to continuously do the effort. But normally, when we sleep, we breathe. Do we put an effort there? We don't put an effort there.
We are not putting the effort, but we make it, as I said, Prāṇayama. We put effort in extending.
No.
I do that. I do that when I am taking before going to bed, or maybe in the bed before going to sleep. I do the pranayama. I don't know at which point I lose my consciousness.
Correct. So
and in the morning, when I wake up, I remember that I had been doing.
Correct.
And I had spent my sleep without any dream.
Correct.
But here in this case, where will that divinization comes? That's what I'm asking.
So the prananam and pranayama are different. Normal breathing is different than pranayama. Pranayama is a sadhana. You have to, like you said, you have to make an effort to have this duration for inhalation, exhalation, holding, and everything. There you have to make an effort.
Yeah.
But for normal prananam, you don't make any effort.
Okay.
Right? So let us keep that aside. One thing. How will you know? Why we don't know is because of the ignorance. So you always know when the ignorance is removed. So there is no answer for the question, how will I know? As long as you have ignorance, whatever I tell, so all those are going to be very mystic. I can say you can see a light here, you can see light there, and all that I can mislead you. Why I say mislead is, no two people's experience are going to be identical. What will happen is, this is where Guru helps. The Guru will be watching you, not 24 hours. So as you keep interacting with Guru, if not daily, a weekly or monthly or somewhere, when you interact with Guru, you will, the kind of questions you ask, he would have crossed all that. He or she would have crossed all that. At some point, they will know that you are coming close to a certain point. And based on the personal knowledge, they might throw some light on what could happen. But the final test, the ultimate test is, say your Guru is not physically present to answer your questions. Have you reached that position or not? When Kundalini is awake, like I was answering the previous question, you are going to merge with the divine. And there is no ambiguity there. So the moment you have a doubt, you are not divine. Vidyate hridaya grantihi chidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani tasman drishte paravare. The moment you see the divine, you have nothing to do, you have nothing to doubt, you have nothing else to see. So that is the state. So you will not have any doubt at all.
We are in complete culmination with that deity. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Padmanabhanji, could you please unmute and ask your question?
Sir, you just made a passing reference to ajapa. Can you elaborate on japa and ajapa?
Oh, ajapa is a tricky concept. So when you say japa, there is a mantra and you keep repeating it consciously initially, like you was telling. At some point, it becomes part of your subconscious. I won't say unconscious, subconscious. So this, when you breathe, the breathing itself produces certain sound, and you take that as the mantra. So ajapa is japa without doing a conscious mantra japa. That's called ajapa. And you get that by Upadesh. So as there is Upadesha krama for that. So Guru will tell you how to do that, and you will know as you practice.
So is it something similar to the Turiya stage or Chaturtha stage of pranayama?
Before that. It is
before that.
before that, yes.
Thank you, sir.
We can conclude with a couple of questions which are in the chat box. Christopher G has asked about references, possibly for further reading as well.
Okay.
And there is a question which relates directly to the title of the talk. Perhaps you can conclude with
Yes.
that, which is what is the difference between Prāṇa-śakti and Jīva-śakti, both of which feature in it?
Jīva-śakti is what the Shakti by which we do everything in our life, Jīvana, the life. The Prāṇa-śakti is one, even though they are same, ultimately all Shakti is same. Prāṇa-śakti is when you direct your energy, Prāṇa-śakti, when you direct your energy through this sadhana to reach the divine. So like I was telling earlier, this Prananam and Pranayama, both are breathing only. Pranam is breathing, Pranayama is also breathing. So what is the difference? Here you are more mindful of how you do that. So Jīva-śakti is one which makes everyone live. It's the Pashubhava. And Prāṇa-śakti is the one which takes you closer to the divine. So when you channelize your Jīva-śakti through the Guru Upāsana and the Upāsana given by Guru, through that sadhana, it becomes Prāṇa-śakti, leads you to Parāśakti.
Anything about further reading references you would like to share?
This Bhavana Upanishad is one good point to start. Bhavana Upanishad, Bhaskaraya Bhashim is there, even though it's not directly related to Pranayama. How that is more to do with Dharana. And so that is a good target to have. This is one thing. Shakti Sangama Tantra is a good book to understand various aspects of it. And Sharada Tilaka Tantram is also a good book to know various aspects of where is Varahi placed in this. Varahi is part of Saptamatrika, Varahi is part of Yantra. Varahi in Bhavana Upanishad starts Varahi as a Varahi Pitru Rupa. So Sharada Tilaka Tantram is also a good book to read.
Yes. Let us take this opportunity on behalf of the KYM to thank our speaker Giridhara Sharmaji for this not just an overview, a very panoramic, comprehensive view of prana as it begins in sadhana, leading to fulfillment where no doubt remains. There is only divinity. We thank also all those who have gathered and contributed to the lively exchange thereafter. And we wish at this time, when a time of evening of sunset, when prana is going to abide in very subtle form, we wish everyone a very good evening. And we look forward to meeting you again with friends on next Friday, which is May 2nd, where, like we heard on Prana and Pranayama from a Shakta, particularly Srividya perspective today, we have Dr. T. Ganesan next week, who will be speaking on Prana and Pranayama in the Shaiva Agamas. This Dr. Ganesan heads the department, the Institute of Shaiva Studies based in Pondicherry. So we can expect to hear Shaiva perspective, which will complement today's presentation. So with that, with gratitude to our speaker and to all gathered here, we hope to see you back soon. Thank you.